trendsetter. Whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center. Hit it dead center.
Well, welcome, folks, back to another episode of the Diggles Diamonds podcast. I believe after our little summer break, this is episode 24, and we thought with the calendar turning to July that we would bring on some friends of ours, parents who have gone through the recruiting process and can maybe share what they've learned with you folks, what surprised them, what they wish they'd known, positive aspects of it. You know, all we want to give you as much of a comprehensive picture as we can. We are joined tonight by, well, I'll go with the guy who's on my screen first, Brandon Kleist. Brandon is the father of Gavin Kleist. Gavin was an all-conference catcher at Limestone Community High School in Bartonville, and he is headed to North Central College, home of Ed Maffey, my favorite, the Big Shoots himself. Gotta love that guy. We are also joined by the newly promoted chief of police in Peoria Heights, Illinois, Chris Ahart. Actually, you know, let's stop real quick. Brandon, take a bow and just introduce yourself so people can kind of get a feel for who you are there.
Yeah, Brandon Kleist. Yeah, like you said, Diggs, my son's Gavin. Gavin Kleist, Limestone, and he's heading to North Central here in the fall to play for Coach Maffey, and we're pretty excited for him. Pretty excited for the new adventure, and so it's we're just looking forward to it.
Okay. Next up, we have, like I said, the newly promoted chief of police in Peoria Heights, one Chris Ahart. And Chris, I've known Chris, gosh, what have I had, Chris? 4 of your 5 boys?
Yeah, 4 of the 5, yep.
Mace was the only one that didn't play?
Yes, sir.
So I have known Chris a very long time, going all the way back to the early 2000s when his eldest son, Zach, was coming up through the ranks. And Chris, I'll let you tell us a little about your experience with Cam. And
I'm Cam Ahart is my son. He's going to Lakeland. Went to high school at Peoria Heights. Like Ben, you said, he's the baby of 5. 4 of them went to college to play baseball. 1 did not play baseball in college, and he's a coach now. He's coaching basketball. So I've been a little bit longer than these 2 or these 3. So got a little more experience, but I don't know if it's any better or any worse.
Rookies, all of them.
Right.
That's why I wanted to have Chris on, because Chris has literally lived through all the changes that we have seen in the last 15 years. It has been, Chris has ridden the roller coaster longer than most and lived to tell about it.
Yeah.
Calming influence a lot of times for some of us too. A calming influence.
Yeah.
that fatherly advice he gives.
Absolutely.
So we're thrilled to have Chris with us tonight. And then the last gentleman, as Mr. Bentley might phrase it, a friend of years, friend of tears, Kevin Yates. Kevin, why don't you tell us a little about your son, Cole?
Well,
get it right. It's coleslaw.
Yeah, and known as on here
Slaw for short.
When he was younger, he was a big fan of Nicole as well. That always seemed to get the motor running for the lad when he was in his younger days. But yeah, no, we're just kind of in a pinch ourselves every day mode. Cole's headed to Heartland. Well, he's actually already there technically. Moved in about a week after graduation. To get a head start on things and play in the collegiate league. But like a lot of these guys on here today and a lot of the ones probably watching, we started in the small hometown travel baseball league and kind of, tried to pick the best time to move our way up through the system. And, fortunately we got around some great coaches and some great people and helped us with, getting Cole to keep on playing as long as he can.
All right. And finally, with me as always, my partner in crime, one David Bentley, who is getting ready to Hulk out. We will be running an auction later. we will donate the money to charity for Dave to rip that shirt, Hulk style. And you can either pay him to take it off or put it back on, folks. So
The latter sounds better, but yeah, I'll take the cash I can get.
All right. Well, let's start here. Gentlemen, I want everybody here to answer this. What shocked you most? And Chris, for our purposes, let's focus this on Cam, just because it's changed so much since every one of your boys has gone through. What shocked you about the recruiting process?
Brandon, go ahead.
Kev, why don't you go first?
Oh, okay.
Well,
Go ahead, Kev.
I think, the days that we thought were the darkest, the 0 for 3 days, the 0 for 4 days, just when you think you're at the bottom and man, there's no way this is going to happen. Those seem to be the days that were of the biggest benefit, because it wasn't the 0 for 3, the 0 for 4, the error on the infield, whatever it was truly, and I didn't want to believe this when I was told myself, mainly by you, Ben, but it's how he handled those situations that seemed to catch the most attention. It's the fact that, he just struck out, went to the dugout, still high-fived his teammates, still ran the glove out, or still was the first one out on the infield. As he got older through high school and started to get looked at a little more, those were the things that seemed to matter the most. And as hard as it was to believe that, when that coach is there watching, or you've got, the kid on the other team hitting bombs, it's how you handled that adversity and how you moved on from that adversity to the next day, right? Did you go out and work on what you struggled with, or those sort of things that seemed to catch the most attention from the coaches we were involved with.
All right, Mr. Ahart, what you got?
I think the thing that we found the most shocking through the process was, you hear about, you never know who's watching. You always got to be ready. Actually, Cam got recruited at the Perfect Game tournament up in Marion. And, Lakeland was not a college we were looking at. He was looking at, Rock Valley, where his brother went. He was looking at ICC. He was just trying to keep his options open. And lo and behold, he went up there, just played ball, didn't do anything special. And Lakeland kind of reached out to us and say, we like him. We like what he has to offer. We like his size. And brought us down for a visit and offered right there. So, when they tell you that you never know who's watching, that's absolutely the truth. Cam just went about his business and came out of nowhere for a college that we weren't expecting.
Very cool. Very cool. And it turns out a very successful college, coming off a 45-14 season and a 4th place finish at the D1 World Series.
Yeah, he's got some big shoes walking in. So, but it's a good opportunity, and that program is on a rocket ship right now. So he's excited.
Absolutely. Mr. Kleist, what about you? What did you find shocking as you took Gavin through the process?
Well, I think a lot of it was, building off what Kevin said, when you're in a situation and you know that people are watching, you just think you have to be perfect, right? And that you're finding out real quick you don't have to be perfect, because there's a lot of metrics involved with what coaches want. And then to build on, what Ahart said is, you go 0 for 4, but you have good swings. You have good, maybe you put the ball in play. Maybe you made solid contact all 4 times. You just didn't come through with that big hit. But coaches watch that and they see that, and you don't have to be perfect. And I think that's where me as a parent would get caught up with, oh shit, sorry, Diggs, I didn't mean to.
We can swear here, it's fine.
Okay. Oh crap, you went 0 for 4. You left, 4 runners on base and this, that, and the other, and the sky is falling. And that's completely not the case. They are looking at metrics. They are looking at, how do you conduct yourself, how you handle yourself. And that's what they want. Because, you can go 4 for 4 and you can have 4 dribblers right out in front of the catcher, and they're still hits. But at the end of the day, that's what kind of shocked me was, you don't have to be perfect.
I think it's hard to digest, but if they're there, they know you're good already,
Mhm.
right? If you're in a situation where they're coming to see you, they know you're good. Like I think you said it perfectly, Brandon. You don't have to be perfect from there. You just have to show really what kind of a human you truly are, and that you're willing to get after it, willing to work, and willing to be a good teammate from there.
All right. Mr. Bentley, what do you have for these fine gentlemen?
I got questions for each of the three. I'll start with Mr. Kleist. First of all, please tell your brother Skippy I said hello.
Will
But
do.
specifically,
Wait, he's not
to you-
Skip?
No,
You got the wrong guy.
Shit.
You'd
been
be
4
shocked at how many,
years.
how many people call me Skip on a daily basis. I'm like, well, I'm better looking, but
Yeah.
I gotta know, how close was Gavin to playing where I played for the Monmouth Scots and Coach Paterni?
I would say he was pretty close. Um, I, you know, North Central kind of came in, and he had his eyes set on North Central. Coach Matthey and Coach Kreisman reached out to him, asked us for a visit. Up until we went to that visit, I would say Monmouth was going to be the place. I do know that on his visit, he was able to hang out with a lot of the team. He loved the team. He
Yeah.
loved the football setting, and he's getting kind of the same thing at North Central. As football is no, not to slam Monmouth, but they won the D3 national championship last year.
Yes, they
So
did.
5 years in a row or something,
I was
right?
gonna
yeah,
say, like
they've
every
been there.
3 years they're there. Yeah.
So yeah, him and a buddy were kind of talking. They were going to go there. They really wanted to go there, and then North Central kind of came in and kind of swept him off his feet, I guess you could say.
It's a beautiful campus. I'll be able to catch some home games. It's like 25 minutes from where I live, and it's a great landing spot. I think he's going to love it. Everybody I know that has gone there hasn't transferred because they just loved it. It's right downtown. It's a really good school. It's a cool school. It's right in the middle of what, like, the fourth biggest city in Illinois, but
Right.
sort of on like the non-business side, the charming side, where there's a lot of restaurants and stuff there. Yeah, I think you made a great choice, or Gavin did, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I didn't do much other than whatever you want, bud.
Yeah. Do you want me to lead into my next and just go through all
Absolutely.
three, Dicks?
Yeah,
All right.
knock him off.
For coleslaw, Mr. Yates, by the way, Yates and I are the longest tenured teammates in baseball for anyone I know, and I assume anyone you know. I think 9 years old through 18. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
So the coleslaw committed pretty early. I'll let you tell why, but my thought, just from knowing you, talking to you, is you get the offer you want. What else are you waiting for? Is that kind of his?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, he was a different case. He was always the smallest kid on the team. And his growing up through travel ball and everything wasn't perfect. There were some teams he wanted to be a part of that he just flat out wasn't good enough to be a part of, or didn't have all of his aspects of the game developed in time, right? It being a smaller kid and everything else, he's kind of been a year behind physically from a lot of his teammates. And we went to a Heartland camp. One thing that Cole has been able to do consistently is defensively be at the upper end of the people that he's been around. And all the way up until the time he was 15 or 16, he probably hadn't hit a ball over 250 feet. He just wasn't big enough and mature enough to do that. But he found that he could find a way to contribute, and he found he could find a way to be a part of bigger teams by being fast and getting as many outs as possible. And when he went to the Heartland camp, that situation showed itself. Chris is from our hometown, so that certainly helped. Cole played for his dad in 7th and 8th grade. And, it was a decision for Cole as it was shaping out through his high school career was, you know, what are your goals when you get to that next level? Do you want to be a part of a team that has a chance to win year in, year out, maybe go to a national championship like Heartland has been able to do? Is your goal to play as fast as possible and disregard the record? And for Cole, at the time and still now, IVC hadn't done a whole lot of winning through his athletic career in basketball and baseball. They've been very competitive, but up until this year, they hadn't won a regional in a while. They hadn't been to a sectional and those sort of thing. And the opportunity to win and to be on that level of team outweighed the immediate playing time for him. So when he got the offer to go there, we as a family decided that his grades are good, but not great. So he wasn't going to qualify for the same sort of academic awards that Gavin has at North Central or some of those things. He had, I think he ended up graduating with like a 3.3. So, they were good, but not great. And, we made it clear as parents that paying $40,000-$50,000 a year for a D2 or D3 school right out of the gate for 4 years was just not something that made a lot of financial sense for us. So JUCO was the right move, and Heartland was a winning program, and he was fortunate to catch their eye and get an offer early. And he kind of wanted that monkey off his back as well. When he was going to play in those bigger tournaments and things with his travel squads, that going 4 for 4, going 3 for 4, having to play, with that type of pressure is not something he wanted to do. I think his exact words, Dad, I want to play free. I just want to play free. And that was kind of the basis behind him deciding so early.
I think he's a good example of showing how important defense is, especially up the middle. And the fact is that I'm sure that playing free helped because he had hitting wise an outstanding senior year, including some bombs, and he grew as well. So, it made me think back, and of course I had to tell one nostalgic Yates and Bentley story. Our 95 team, where we had Lavin catching, Chad Carr at short, Babcock in center, that was a solid defense. And, with Cole playing short and, I'm sure he has the ability to play second too, or wherever Razzo tells him. But I think it's a good example to parents and kids out there that, look, we all have growth spurts at different times. As we talked about Pat Shea before the show started, Pat Shea had his growth spurt in 6th grade. He was huge and he stopped growing. Pat Shea is my cousin, and Yates and I know him from growing up. And he was in AAU basketball with Mike Robinson and Nick Knapp, and he just stopped growing. Cole grew this year. I remember I spurred in 8th grade, but before that, I was just a tiny weakling. So for those of you who are a little undersized, work on the things you can control, like sharpening your speed, sharpening your defense, because man, defense matters so much, especially in college. You start booting the ball around in college, you're on the bench. It's over.
And it's tough, right? I mean, for that kid and for the involved dad, it's tough because everybody talks about the kid that can hit the ball 300 feet at age 14, and you're over here working on footwork, as you're fielding a ground ball because you can control that. But you need the footwork because your arm strength isn't there yet because you haven't matured. And as he started to mature, especially junior, senior year of high school, those things that he had in his back pocket proved to be all the difference in the world to helping him have a year we could only dream of when he was 13, 14 this year.
Yeah, it's a great story. Chief Ahart, I got to ask about Cam's hoops. Did he have a chance to play hoops by itself in college, and or what surprisingly was an opportunity for me at Monmouth, and I turned it down, was to play hoops and baseball? Did Cam have any chance to do that at some of the smaller schools or even some of the bigger ones? Because he's a big dude.
No, I don't think so. Cam was never much of a scorer. Cam did all the stuff that nobody liked to do. We rebounded, we played defense, we took charges. The stuff doesn't make the papers. Diggle can speak to
Yeah,
that. I don't think he
I
ever wrote an
noticed it.
article on
I
people
looked at the
taking
box
charges.
scores.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Cam wasn't the guy who would put up 25 or 30. We had scorers to do that. Cam would do the other stuff. So no, and he liked playing. He likes to play at the Y now. It's just something he likes to do. He doesn't do it competitively. It's just something he enjoys. But he was never, he worked his butt off at it. But yeah, no, answer your question simply, no, it was baseball or nothing. He was, he's a good student, so he was going to go to college no matter what.
Yeah.
But yeah, his goal when we started this was to go to school for free, and he succeeded. So
Good stuff. There'll be plenty of opportunities for him to keep hooping, by the way, as we all know, in college. Some of my favorite games were pickup games. But anyway, Yates, and I'm not talking about Hopwood's backyard Yates. I'm talking stuff, but
Gentlemen, I wanted to talk a little bit about your route through travel ball, because each of you has had a little different path. What I guess what I want to know is, what was your mindset? Just to give people an idea here, Brandon Kleist, Gavin, stuck with his team for 5 years. Gavin, Cole, and Cam all started on the same 14U team, and then broke off. Cole and Cam stayed together with another group, and then Cam stayed there, and Cole went to another squad. So, talk to me a little bit about your travel ball experience. Let's start with Mr. Ahart. How would you describe Cam's travel ball experience?
Well, when Cam started off at just a local Woodruff Heights house team, basically, and he played a lot of guys that they kind of grew up with. He then went to another local program. Can I say the name, Ben,
Yeah,
or not?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so he left Woodruff Heights and just wanted to see where he fell in a competitive range. About 10 years old, and went to the K-Hawks. Loved it there. We were there for 4 years. End up trying out for another travel, the Outlaws. He played a year there. They then offered him a PO spot, and Cam felt like he didn't have a great year offensively that year. He was kind of still growing into his body, threw the ball really well. Offered him a PO spot, and at that point, at 14, he wasn't ready to give up hitting, so he bet on himself. Went back to which turned into the Canes, and he stayed there the rest of the time. And I guess the rest is history. He no bad experiences at all. I think each spot he learned a little bit about himself, but I feel like the Outlaws is the one that really he kind of had to dig deep. Okay, if I'm going to go to college, that's my goal, then I'm going to really have to put the work in. Cam was always one that, not to brag him, he was always, one of the top 3 or 4 in every team he went. He was athletic, he was tall, he could throw the ball well. So he got with the Outlaws, and everybody was as good, if not better than he was. So he really had to work, but he put the work in the cages and in the weight room. And it paid dividends. Unfortunately, his sophomore year, he lost to the torn meniscus, and that just, drove him even more. He picked up 45 pounds of muscle in the weight room, and you guys can attest to that. He's bigger and stronger now, faster, and all that is just he had to constantly work.
To be fair, that was mostly genetics just catching up with you. It was bound to kick in sooner or later, buddy.
yeah, that's the belly, not the muscles.
Talk a little bit about Chris. Talk a little about Cam's decision to keep hitting, because I'll be the first to tell you, when he was 13, 14 years old, I really thought that's where his bread was going to be buttered, and quite wisely,
Sure.
you and he both were like, no, we want to keep hitting, and it turned out to be the right call. Like, how much did you guys wrestle with that of deciding, hey, we don't want to focus just on pitching?
Yeah. So I think that year he was a 14, is going into his it would have been going into his sophomore season. He felt like he wasn't done hitting yet. He felt like he hadn't met his potential yet hitting. He hadn't met his potential yet in the weight room. And we had a lot of long talks about that. He really liked the guys that he played with, the Outlaws, and he's still really close to him, Michael McCoy and Humphrey and those guys. But he just felt like, at this point, if he was 16, I think it would have been a different discussion. I think it's okay. Now we got to start pivoting to something, to what else gets you to college. But at that point, he still felt like he had 3 years. Really has spent a lot of time in the weight room, and he was willing to bet on himself. So I commend him for that. Amy and I told him his decision, 100%. We'll support you 100%, whatever you want to do. And he's like, I'm not ready to quit hitting yet. So yeah, no, it was a lot of long talks over the dinner table, and inevitably it was his decision. I felt like he was mature enough to make it.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Remind me to come back to the injury portion, because each of your boys has dealt a little bit with the injury bug, and we want to keep assure parents that it's not the end of the world if somebody gets banged up. But Kev, why don't you talk a little bit about Cole's journey through travel baseball?
Sure. Yeah, we started with the local IVC squad here, and I was every bit of the best I could do. Travel dad, did all my internet research and coached, from 9U all the way up to 12, I think, right, Chris?
Yep.
I think 13 was the first year.
Yes.
And about the time that Cole turned 12, it was time for dad and Cole not to be in the dugout. It was the best thing for our relationship, for somebody else to coach my son, right? It just happens in young boys and dad's life. There were no real certain instances that popped up, but just for the good of our relationship, I couldn't do it anymore. And then we also kind of reached a point at IVC where there just isn't enough in the community to kind of consistently push where he wanted to go, right? He was going to make the team no matter what, and he was going to play positions that he wanted to play, and we didn't feel that was the best environment for his growth as an athlete or as an individual. So we went from there and tried out for a couple different organizations, and found a home with the K-Hawks, which is now the Canes. It just seemed like the right environment, the right people and teammates around him, and it worked out really, really well. And similar to Cam, the Outlaws started a new program, and at the time that was the organization to be a part of if you were an upcoming baseball player. And we gave it a shot, and he did make that team. He was probably one of the last ones chosen at the time. He, at age 14, I think that was, right?
Yep.
He was all of 5'1", 95 pounds at that time, and he's playing or trying to compete with your Carter Prinas, your Tyler Humphreys, your Gavin Kleist and Cam Ahart, who are developing men, if not already men. And he battled. He did his best, but a future with that program was not in the cards for him. After a season, he just wasn't physically able to keep up with that style of baseball at that point in time. And when that didn't work out for the second year, there was a lot of soul searching for him. We had a lot of conversations. There were some tears involved. There was a lot of, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. And we kind of let that sit for a day or two. We talked about trying out for other teams and going back to other teams and what truly he wanted out of it. And, fortunately for him, we kind of, had talked through some of these things before and how we're going to handle challenges as we're growing up as a young man. And after about 2 days, he picked himself up and said, all right, kind of F this, I'm going to show him, rather than, believing that he couldn't do it. So we went back to the Canes with the Aharts and went to work. Truly for a 14, 15-year-old kid, went to work to try to prove some people wrong, to try to prove himself right. and that was it. From there, the year with the Canes, that's when he committed to Heartland. He had shown enough to them to earn an offer, committed to Heartland, and at that point in time, from a parent standpoint, it was in the future coach's hands, based on recommendation from Chris and some future teammates that were going to be in Cole's class. Chris made a suggestion that we move to the Rhino team out of Joliet if we could feasibly do it, and started to play with them and played with them for the next 2 years. And that was a great environment for him to be in. And, he had met some kids that were going to be coming in his class and the class before him. And it was good to kind of get out of that fishbowl. When he went up to Joliet for his first practice, there were 3 other kids playing shortstop up there that he had never met, he had never seen, and more importantly, they had never seen him. And he had started to grow. He had started to get serious about the weight room, and went up there and took the position 30 minutes into the first practice. And that was a really important step for him as an athlete and as a young man. So, like Chris, we have no ill will. Sometimes, the failures can be the biggest push point, and that's kind of where it went for us. We had great experience growing up through the different organizations.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Kleist, you were the one that was Mr. Consistency, stayed with the Outlaws all 5 years. Obviously, there were people urging you to leave. Some fat mouthed idiot was trying to get you to leave every other year. Well, both of us actually, Kev. But talk a little bit about Gav's experience, staying put, and kind of what that allowed him to experience.
Sure. So very similar to what those guys said. So Gavin started out with Limestone Little League. I was the coach. I sat on the board. I was in charge of the travel program.
Let me stop you right there for just a second, Brandon, because your situation is kind of unique because the Limestone Youth Baseball group, or whatever you want to call it, organization, is probably one of the bigger, better organized groups in Illinois. I would go so far as to say, definitely in the Peoria area.
Yes.
And so it's no small thing to go off the reservation.
Right.
So that was the first thing you had to wrestle with was, can we, are we comfortable leaving Limestone Youth Baseball?
And that's kind of what happened. So when we would play Limestone baseball in the summer, after the season, we would then jump on other teams for the second part of the season. So Limestone was always done by, July 4th, maybe the week after, and then we'd hop on another team, and then we'd finish out a season with them, which was more of a all-star type team, more of guys getting together. It got to be about Gavin's 13U season. He played up on 14U because we didn't have enough kids for the 14U program. In order to kind of keep a program together, we moved him up. It was after that season that Kevin, I had seen and talked to with Live and Good, who's not on here. We went and played a tournament in Jacksonville. Was a lot of fun. And then Kevin suggested that, hey, we try out for the Outlaws. At that time, we tried out because Gavin wanted to see where he stacked up. We had no intentions of leaving Limestone baseball for his 14U year. However, he did make that team. Once he made that team, I kind of had to break it to individuals and let people know. People were very excited for us. Some people were not as so excited for us. And that we ended up going there. Now, after that 14U season, there were some sleepless nights. There was a lot of unknowns. We certainly didn't want to lose relationships with, Diggle and Kevin, Ahart, the Live and Goods. But Gavin really, 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 really liked David Kales. Him and David kind of got this relationship that they still have today. And so the reason we stayed is because David did invest a lot with Gavin, helped Gavin out. When Gavin's struggling, David was like his swing whisperer. So David would, hey, come out, let's get your mind right. And so he would always go out there. So that was the main reason we stayed around. And if David wasn't available, he had assistants that would help Gavin out. They always kind of got Gavin ready for, showcases, got him extra swings in. And so even to this day, he's struggling in this collegiate league over in Bloomington, and we had to close some bridges down on the way home a couple weeks ago because he was ready to jump off of them. And he got contacted David, and then David told him to come in, and since then he's been doing well, and I think a lot of it's just the confidence. But it was tough. I mean, it was tough because you know with David, we also had Ben too, who has helped us out extremely in the last several years as well. So it was very difficult. There is a lot of sleepless nights, kind of maneuvering through this thing. Are we doing the right thing? Is he getting seen by who he needs to get seen by? And are we over showcasing him? Are we under showcasing him? And so I mean, that's the route that we took. We have no regrets of what we did. There was sleepless nights because of the relationships that we had and we've made, that we did not want to ruin those relationships though.
Okay. Mr. Bentley, you got another round locked and loaded, sir?
I do. It's for everybody. We can start with you, Mr. Yates. What would you warn other parents whose kids are, say, 15, 16, even 14, 13, who may be approaching the recruitment process? What would you warn them about that perhaps they aren't expecting about the process of being recruited, trying to get recruited? And it's a little bit of a tough question, so I'm going to keep babbling on to give you a chance to think. But things that you went into, and you had Diggle to talk to, which helps to advise you.
100%.
But there had to been things that you were like, man, I did not see that this was so important, or I did not see this coming, or something surprising about the recruitment or trying to get recruited.
Yeah, no, we, fortunately on our IVC team this year, all of our seniors are moving on, and all have kind of had different questions as we were the first to kind of go through the process. But, looking back on it, I think some of the things that we were told that didn't necessarily pan out. Number one, you got to get on this team early because you won't have a chance later, right? Whatever travel team that is. That couldn't be further from the truth in, I think, any of our experiences, right? I can't remember one team, even all the way back to 9U, in the local IVC team that Cole played on, that had the exact same kids every single year. All of these teams are going to have openings. If it's not the right time for you to go try out for a little larger organization, there's going to be another opportunity next year for that same team. That is just a complete falsehood to me when you're moving through these travel organizations. Some of the things I think that as we watch others go through the process, I think the biggest decision that your athlete or even as a family you have to make is what are your goals for playing time? Right. There are especially with the transfer portal and how things are moving through now, if your athlete's goal is to play right away, then it's almost to the point where a small D2, D3 or junior college has to be the option. That dream of going to an SEC school is just 99.9% not there, right? I mean, Ben's got a great line that he uses that Cole Yates wants to go play at Tennessee, great, but there's a million Cole Yateses between here and Knoxville, Tennessee, and the chance of them getting all the way up here to find him is very, very slim, if any, right? Like those SEC schools and playing year round and everything else that everybody wants to go to. Not that it can't happen, but I think all of us in this chat have been around some incredible baseball players at age 14 that are ending up at the same places that our kids are at, right? It just all balances out. It all changes as they move through the high school season. And it's really a remarkable process to go through. It really is. And then as a parent, when your child is in the position where there are people watching them, I can't stress enough, just get the hell away. Just back off. Just go to another diamond if you have to. You know, Brandon's got a great spot usually in the outfield to sit next to. Just get away. I know it's everything in your instinct to reach out and shake hands and try to make that relationship to benefit your child, but if there's one time to just back off, that is it, man. If the coaches know who you are, they will come talk to you if they want to. You know, you don't have to, oh, did you see him take that swing or did you see him make that throw? Just, I know it's hard.
How hard is he throwing? Ask him
Yes.
about the
Oh,
radar gun.
God. Yes. Stay away from the gun. As hard as it is, just back away. The other parents on the team will tell you everything you want to know. I promise. Just back away.
And the coaches don't want to talk to us parents.
No,
They don't.
no.
And
Not
that's
until they talk to the kid.
right.
Yes.
And that's a huge point, Brandon. That is so important. I tell people all the time, you know, in my role as a recruiting coordinator at Illinois Central College, I can bring parents in and I guarantee I could get the parents committed before they walked out the door.
Yep.
Guaranteed. No doubt, whether it's academics, whether it's where they're going to live, whatever it is, I can almost guarantee I would sell mom and dad before the visit was over.
My
But
dad
that's not
took a class at ICC when he was 42, but that's neither here nor there.
If you want to help your child in that situation, do it before practice, right? One of the best things we got out of the Outlaws organization in our time there was, you know, dress like an athlete, walk like an athlete, run like an athlete, and have a handshake like an athlete and communicate, right? You want to go to a particular school where a coach is talking to you, talk to that coach like an adult, right? Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you for coming. All of the things that you're taught as a child when talking to your elders, that's where you can help. We used to practice. If we knew a coach was going to be there, we used to practice on the drive to the game. Oh, Cole, you played a great game. We were interested in you coming to such and such school. How would you feel about that? Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm thankful you came to see me. You know, that's where you can help is before. But once they're there, once they're talking, just get away.
Really, what was that question again? Yates took a while on that one.
Yeah.
That's
So,
why you
Mr.
always go
Kleist,
after Kevin. You always go after Kevin, Brandon.
Yep.
Never go before.
That's right. I'm finding that out real quick in this endeavor.
I was asking Brandon something that happened or that you would warn parents that have, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds who are approaching this phase that you guys have now just sort of passed that you didn't expect or a warning to those parents, which Yates gave a couple good ones, actually.
So
That was
so I would think that every parent wants their kid to be good, right? And so when you hear that your kid's just not that good, or you look across the diamond and you see a school that's interested in a kid that might not be that you don't think is as good as your kid, and your kid's better, but for some odd reason they're all over this kid, you just have to be humbled in what is given to you. What I mean by that is you can reach out to schools, and I would encourage everybody to reach out to a school. And Gavin sent, I would say, he had to send 25 to 30 emails out to coaches. And we heard from 3 coaches. So you got to get humbled that, hey, look, it's just not that easy. And as much as you can't freak out either. I remember I started freaking out on the way home from a tournament. Gavin's getting ready to fall asleep in the back seat, and I'm like, "Aren't you worried? We haven't heard from anybody yet. You're going into your senior season. What are we gonna do?" And it's just like, and he's just like, "Relax." And he's telling me to relax. And so, since that moment, you just have to relax and understand that this is a process. This is not something, unless you are that 1%, or less than 1%.
Yeah.
Things don't happen overnight. And it takes time. And coaches may be interested in you, but maybe they don't offer you anything. Maybe they just want to get you on the hook, and see what's out there. But you just got to be humbled and understand that what coaches see in your kid is not what you see in your kid. and that it doesn't mean that your kid is not as good. It just means that they're not a good fit for their program.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. That is Brandon, that is darn near profound. I mean, that, so many people take this personally, and if that's, some kids use that as motivation. Hey, great, do your thing, man. I'm a huge fan of motivation, but it might be a fit. It might be, hey, there's two players that are of similar talents. Whichever one commits first, we're going to take, or whichever one, wants to visit first is probably the one we're going to offer. Whatever
Right.
it might be,
And Gavin, right.
there's a
And
lot of
Gavin,
different things that go into finding a college baseball player.
right. And so like in our example, like so Gavin is going to North Central. Well, they also recruited another catcher. But what the coach kept telling us our whole visit is we love your left-handed bat. Your left-handed bat would fit into our program really nice. And that's what kind of sold Gavin is like, okay, although there's another catcher there, I'm going to be able to go. I got to go to work, but they really want me. And that's what kids want to hear too, is somebody who really wants them. And I think that's what makes decisions easy, but not everybody wants you.
Absolutely.
Go
My
ahead,
turn.
Chris.
Hart?
My turn.
Yeah,
So
your turn.
I got a couple, and we've all done different things, but I would say on the travel teams, you don't have to be sold on going to Alabama or Florida or Texas. There are plenty of good fields and complexes where college coaches are going to see you. I go back to the Perfect Game of Marion, the Diamond Sports at ISU, the Rantoul Fields, the Bettendorf. Colleges will find you. If your son or daughter, softball wise, are good enough, they're going to find you. That's a big thing. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with those programs that go to Alabama and Texas, but you don't have to do it. If you can't afford it, don't throw your family into bankruptcy just because someone sold you on. You have to be seen in front of SEC coaches. Touching on what Yates said, this is not your journey. Most of us have been to college. Some of us played college sports. It's not your journey. Let them enjoy it. Be there for them, support them, but let them enjoy this. Sit back and let them talk to the coaches. Let them figure out the wrong ways to talk to people and greet people. And Cam and I, the big thing what we figured out is I made Cam sit down and we sent emails out. I made him pick four Division I, Division II, Division III, and JUCO. Send emails out, little snippets of film from you so the college can see it, and they'll reach back out to you. That we had some colleges interest that through that. They never even saw him play just through the snippets we sent out. And the last thing is, just be happy. If I know everybody wants their kid to go Division I, everybody wants to go play at Tennessee and Vanderbilt. You know what? If they get to play 2 more years after high school, it's a bonus. If they get to play at Monmouth for 4 years, it's a bonus. Anything after high school, that's just added. Enjoy it. Don't get so stuck on it's got to be Division I. It's got to be Division I. It's we did that with our oldest. We enjoyed the ride with him. He played Division II for Gary Vaught over at UIndy. Had a ball. Got some draft looks. But our next one that went to Josh Foreman at Carl Sandburg. He was a JUCO kid, so just whatever your kid is and the caliber, just enjoy that part of it.
And I think what you said about support, Chris, and you had the benefit by the time that we were around you with Cam, that you kind of understood this better than me, maybe Bear and Brandon too, is how that support changes as they grow and as they change as individuals, right? That support at 9 or 10 years old is hey, let's go practice, let's go to the cage. Whereas that support at 15, 16, they're going through a lot as becoming young men, and that support is maybe more emotional than physical support. And it's hard to identify as a father, especially with your first go around, where and when to stomp and when to hug and all of that comes through. And as we all know in athletics, that's really tough.
A little thing that's really worked out good for the boys, and like I said, I had to figure out how to get there. Every one of my 5 boys are different personalities, but with Cam, it was I'm never going to drag you along to the batting cage. I'm never going to drag you to the weight room. Never going to drag you to long toss. I've been there. I don't need to do that, but I'll never tell you no. You want to go, you want to hit, I don't care if it's 9 o'clock, we'll go to a cage. But I'm not going to go, come on, Cam, it's 6. We have to go hit now. No, this is for you, man. You're the one who wants to go to college, not me. So I'll never tell them no. But the more you push them, like I said, we've been around this a long time. And I've seen parents that pushed and pushed and pushed, and now their kids either hate the sport, completely out of it by the time they got to be a sophomore, junior in high school. Just enjoy it with your sons and daughters. Just enjoy the ride. It's tell you what, I some of the best times. I'm still, my shoulder still aches from, batting practice and front tosses and all that stuff. Kevin can attest to that. But I wouldn't give it up for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a parent, I think we had that same conversation with Cole when he entered high school. Like, I'm not asking anymore, but I won't say no. I will always go, as tired as I am or whatever else. And maybe you're not the most athletic dad in the world, but you can still figure out a way to help. We all look at social media too much. We all see the videos. There's whether you're the most athletic dad or the least athletic dad, there's something you can do that can help your child get better, right? Whether it's hitting ground balls or front toss or throwing a million overhand pitches, and then capitalize on your other dad friends on those teams, right? Like, I throw a lot of BP back in the day to both of your kids because I could throw strikes, right? Whereas
I can.
there are different things that Brandon and Chris brought to the table that I wasn't very good at, or that I wasn't developed as a father of an athlete with yet. You got to rely on those people you trust.
Yates, did you ever drop down to sidearm during those BP sessions?
It gets lower as I get older, for sure. Going above the head is not quite as comfortable as it used to be. But like Chris, man, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Not a minute. Now, those cage conversations that I think we've probably all had with our sons about things other than baseball, you just can't have with mom and sister around sometimes. There's a lot of a man growing that happens in those cages and on those infields when it's just dad and your kid.
I mean, there's
Brandon and Chris in Little League. Go ahead. Go ahead,
for me, a lot of it was like I never would like drag Gavin, but I would remind Gavin, like, if you want to do this, like Fortnite for 3 hours tonight probably was not the best thing for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're telling me you want to do one thing and then you're not showing it, then that you got to do what you. But then now it's to the point now, to appease me, he'll be like, hey, you want to go soft toss to me? I know you can't throw overhand because you can't throw strikes, but you can soft toss to me, because he knows that I like, that's kind of our time. Like Kevin said, it's just, a little bonding experience, and you get 25, 30 cuts in, we go, I come home, have a beer, and he has a Gatorade.
So we know about Fortnite, but what about baseball stars and RBI baseball? Would that have been okay?
I don't think they know what that is, Bentley. They have no idea.
We have done a horrible job bringing those 3 kids up.
Yes.
The fact they weren't exposed to RBI baseball or baseball stars, we have failed.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Can we ask why Tony Armas was on the bench for Boston, by the way? The dude had 40 bombs. You always put him in for Spike Owen, right? I mean, come on.
Vince Coleman was unstoppable on the
Oh
base,
my God. Unless there was a tarp around. Watch out for the tarp. I want to just real quick, Kev, you were pretty lucky. Cole really came through high school pretty much unscathed, except for just a little shoulder impingement that Aunt Carol was able to work out. But Chris and Brandon, both your sons, dealt with some pretty not severe injuries, but there was definitely a lengthy recovery involved for both of them. If you don't mind, kind of take us through, was there a freak out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you, after you talked to the doctor, did you realize, like, okay, hey, we're not the end of the world? Yeah. How did you handle the injury?
Gavin handled it a lot better than what I did. That's for sure.
And just to be clear, Gavin's was a back injury?
Gavin's was an L5 fracture
okay.
on his back. I'm not going to talk very loud because my wife's right upstairs. The bottom line is that his freshman year, he was playing sophomores, and he was having a hard time just moving. and we thought it was a pinched nerve. We thought it was, we didn't know what it was, but we had him into a massage therapist 2 times a week. We had him over at the chiropractor daily with Dr. Christie over at Synergy. Uh, and so nothing was working. Coach Renz from Limestone called me up and said, "Hey, look, his son, I think it was Cal.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, he had the, here's what his symptoms were. This is kind of what Gavin's telling me." I went to my wife and I said, "Hey, I think we need to just get him to Midwest Orthopedic." And at that point, she was just like, he says it's working with the chiropractor and he's working. And I'm like, it's just not. He can, like, they were DHing for him, but still using him behind the dish. And I'm like, this isn't all wrong. Like, this is wrong. Something is wrong. Something that's not getting better. And then I remember it was we were coming home from Pekin on a Monday night. My wife got the call from Midwest, and she got the news that his L5 was fractured. What did that mean for us? It was actually good timing for him because Pekin is our last on the schedule. So we were damn near done with baseball. We had 2 or 3 games left, and being a sophomore, it was just a sophomore tournament. He couldn't play basketball, but he was in a back brace morning, noon, and night. Um, and so he was able to fight that off, and now he's back healthier than ever. And he was back for his sophomore year, and then he got called up to play varsity in that year as well. So it worked out well for him, and he's, like I said, he's back. But there was a freak out moment for, I think, my wife and I. Once again, he doesn't get freaked out about much. But he handled it like a champ. He got himself, back where he needed to. The doctor said, "Hey, you got to wear this back brace. You don't really have to wear it during the day. You can wear it when you're sleeping." This kid had it on morning, noon, and night because he knew that was the way he needed to get back, get healthy for. Because actually, I should say that yes, he was out then for the summer of of the outlaw season.
After his freshman year, right?
After his freshman
Yeah,
year.
missed his freshman year.
But he came back the last couple weeks, and he played a few. He didn't play a lot just because he was coming back from the injury. It was a freak out moment for sure, but it was something he handled with, he handled it very mature. And right now he's back to normal. Although when he says, "Hey, my back hurts," I start freaking out again. But then he'll start laughing and be like, "Not where that back, not my fracture." I'm like, okay. So, but yeah, he's doing well. And things seem to be back to normal.
All right, Chris. Now, Cam had kind of a freakish injury, slipped on a wet mound, I believe.
Yeah.
And
He,
tore his meniscus.
correct. Yeah. It was 4 games into the sophomore season. Tore his meniscus, wet mound at Stark County. It wasn't anybody's fault. He was just actually getting ready for the game. Just called a dirt clog and it popped it. So originally the freak out moment was originally the doctor at Midwest said it was torn ACL, MCL. So, you can imagine he was coming off a very successful freshman varsity season. Led the Patriots in quite a few offensive categories. Got to play with his big brother. This was going to be his, kind of a breakout without it, his brother there, and it lost it. And there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of frustration from all of us, from Mom and I, and Cam. But the way Cam's wired, he felt sorry for himself for about 2 days, and then said that F word and just went back to work. His principal at the Heights is Terry Mooney, a good friend of Brandon Kleist. Terry's a big workout guy, so Terry took him in the weight room and said, "Okay, I'm going to show you how to get bigger, sitting on your butt, because you can't do anything with your leg right now." So we did the surgery. About 4 weeks after surgery, he went in and worked and picked up about 45 pounds of muscle, and just that's all he did was lift and eat. That's all he could do. Go to rehab 4 times a week, lift and eat. So. He came back for his junior year of basketball, healthy, and we kind of put everything else in the river since then. So, but yeah, we had a freak out moment there, and then you realize, okay, compose yourself. And I told him, you got a couple days to feel sorry for yourself, and he did. And then he went right back to work. If he had goals that he had set for himself, just like Gavin, and you know, a little injury is not going to stop him. Like I said, luckily we had people like yourself, Ben, and Terry Mooney, who really kind of got in his corner and said, all right, we're good. We can work through this. You got to do the work, but you'll come back better than ever. And, you know, the torn meniscus was a lot better than a torn ACL, but it was still what was it, a 6-7 month injury. So he lost the whole summer, but we went to every game with the Canes that year to be supportive, and he wanted to be around the guys and be in the dugout. I will tell you that the one thing he learned, and I don't know if Gavin's saying this, the one thing Cam said is it was actually nice to kind of sit back and watch the game as a coach or a fan. He goes, I learned more about the game watching that year than I did playing, because in the field everything's instinct. He goes, I learned a lot about pitching, how pitchers, you know, start most hitters off on counts, base stealing, tracking fly balls, all that stuff. He goes, because I literally spent a summer watching it. So, just because it's a terrible thing, an injury, it can be beneficial also.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mr.
Bentley,
we also traveled
ahead,
with the
Brandon.
Outlaws, and I would say that same thing is when Gavin was hurt, is he learned a lot from sitting on that bench watching the game.
But and I think, I can't speak for Gavin, but I know, Cole was playing on that team when Cam was out, and learning how to be a real teammate, right? I mean, there's no opportunity to play. There's nothing to do but learn how to pick your teammates up and how to help them work through the harder times. I know Cam was very big for Cole during that time frame when he wasn't playing.
Absolutely. Mr. Bentley, you got anything? I got a closing question. You got anything you want to squeeze in before then?
I don't. Fire away, Chief.
All right, guys. So I want to know, as a parent, what is one thing you wish you could change about travel ball? Whether it's the distance, the tournament structure, the number of teams, what would you, as a parent, what would make travel ball better in your opinion?
I'll go just because I'm going to be the bad guy on this.
I'll probably be the bad guy, but go ahead.
I would say, the amount of teams. Every time someone doesn't make a travel team, daddy and a buddy go out and start another travel team so their kid can play. It's when my oldest started playing, there was only a handful of travel teams around here. We played, he was one of the first group and Ben would remember us, on RBI baseball with Tom Dunn.
Absolutely.
So that was really the first elite travel team, and everybody else just played. Okay, I was Pekin, I was the Limestone. We played IBC, stuff like that. It turned into, then you started branching out with the K-Hawks, and the Outlaws. It started a younger team. I think what are they? 12U now.
Yeah, I think they went down to 9U. I just saw their tryouts. I think.
So it got so bad. Now there's team. Every time I see something on social media, it's, oh, this team is, I've never even heard of half these teams. That's the big thing for me, that it used to be an elite thing. If you were playing high travel ball, like the RBIs or the Canes or Outlaws, but you were the best of the best. And now it's just, if you don't make the Canes or you don't make the Outlaws, well, I'm just going to start my own team. Now I'm going to, the Lizards or whatever. It's just, there's just so many teams now, and it's just kind of taken the fun and the enjoyment of the eliteness of travel ball away, I feel like.
I would agree. I would wholeheartedly agree. I would also add that parents are ruining travel ball. What do I mean by that? I mean that me and you are sitting talking on an out of town tournament, talking about, all of a sudden we get into the game and we're good friends all of a sudden, and then next thing you know, you're talking behind my back and you're talking about this kid and you're talking about that kid, and why can't we do this and why can't we do that? My biggest pet peeve is when individuals leave a good reputable program, whichever program that might be, and they want to join another program, but they're on like a C team or a D team, or they're just going to go when they're paying that extra money.
Hey, that's the white team, all right?
Yeah,
That's the white team
blue
or the gray team.
So, I would say just, you got to do your research now when you go to some of these travel programs. Everybody baits you in of what they do, and we're going to go to these tournaments where they're going to be seen, and being seen at 11 years old, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen
No.
at 12 years old. It doesn't happen at 13 years old. It doesn't happen at 14 years old.
Anything before
Um,
high school doesn't matter.
yes. Now, did we have good experiences going to some of those places? Absolutely. Our 14-year when we went to Nashville, one of the best times I've ever had on a travel team.
Agree.
But it's just one of those things where you need to do your research. And also, you know, I'm a big fan of at least with the Outlaws that Gavin had a place where he could go and he could get his own workout in. Gavin didn't play basketball in the winter, so he was able to go to the facility and hit, 3-4 times a week or twice a week or whatever. I'm a big proponent of something like that, something like the K's do, in the Rhino K's, and you just do your research because the grass isn't always greener on the other side as much as you want to think it is. People are going to talk about you, and it's going to ruin some relationships, and you just have to be to that understanding.
All right, Yates, don't fuck it up. Bring it home.
All right.
I was sick of all you dancing around it.
No, these guys, I agree completely with what they're saying, but I'll go a little bit different angle with it. For me, as I've been around it longer and our kids have gotten older, for me, the frustration comes with the 8, 9, 10, 11 U's playing so many games. And, these parents are spending, a couple $1,000s to play 40 games at 9U or 8U.
Oh, 70 games at 9U.
When that same $4,000, maybe you play 20 games, but the other portion of that money can go towards bringing in somebody very reputable to teach your child fundamentals or to teach your child proper footwork or hitting instruction. That team can still start in January, February, March and work on those things through April, May. Go play 2 weeks of games, then come back to it. I really think at 8, 9, 10, 11U, if you're spending the money, spend it on instruction, spend it on growth, spend it on what you're trying to develop in high school. Because 40 games, 50 games for a 9U kid's not going to do it. It's not going to do it. You can play 3 games and never touch the baseball. That's just how baseball works. You're not getting any better that way. Go for the instruction, the reputable instruction. Go for the development. Once you get to high school, then it's balls to the wall, man. Then you're going, especially sophomore, junior year. But man, those 8, 9, 10U teams that are paying 40, 50 games, I look back and I'm like, that's not the way I'd do it again for sure.
And don't trophy chase. I think that's what Kevin is pretty much saying. Do not trophy chase. At the end of the year, if you don't win any trophies, but your whole team develops and got better, your season was very successful. Very successful.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I'm so glad we made this happen. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being willing to share your thoughts and your kids' stories.
I appreciate we got to spend a candlelit evening with Chief Ahart.
It was nice. Yeah. By the way, those are fireworks, not gunshots.
Sure. We know how it goes down in the Heights.
That's right.
Biggs and Bentley, keep doing it, man. You guys are doing good things.
Yep. You guys are.
Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, and Ahart, it's funny you brought up Terry Mooney Jr. I on the 4th of July, I committed to being the assistant for the 11U Limestone Youth Baseball.
Nice.
So with Coach Mooney. So
there you go.
I'm getting back in the saddle. And
I believe that requires the rest of us to get drunk and go heckle. I'm not 100% sure on what the rules are there, but
I'm down for that. Actually, have one waiting for me if you don't mind.
It's just when you nude up and streak at Cooperstown, that's when you run into trouble. Don't be that guy.
I'll try not to be. I don't want to let you down.
All right. Well, gentlemen, again, can't thank you enough. I have no doubt there will be many a parent that is very grateful for listening to this and getting your perspective. And like I said, so happy we're able to make this happen. So, I wish nothing but the best for your boys. And as always, if there's anything I can do to help any of them, I'm just a phone call away, and we'll drop what I'm doing and go to work. So,
Well, and also we didn't even scratch the surface of the transfer portal. That's
yeah,
probably
true.
how many I know you guys have your thumb on the pulse. How many kids are approximately in that transfer portal? Do you guys know?
When I talked to Adam Christ at Illinois last week, he was at his desk logged into the portal just to give me the exact number. It was 6,445. And that was as of the final day to go in was July 1, and that was like the final number of kids.
Yeah.
And there's only, I want to say there's 13,000 roster spots in
But at
college
what
baseball.
point, I mean, you and Bentley both are involved with this. At what point is D1 not even an option for those kids leaving high school?
It's not. It's not right now.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it can't be for 99.9% of them, right? I mean,
I talked to a Missouri Valley coach who was looking for an infielder in the portal, and I threw some other options out there. JUCO kids we'd seen, JUCO kids that played for me, and he said, I want somebody that already has 2 to 3 years of D1 experience, D1 at bats.
Yep.
Didn't matter who the other kid was. All these guys have figured out that if you get old and stay old, you are much likely to be in much better shape. Especially now, and the one, the Valley coach pointed to a school in his own conference, Murray State, which didn't lose hardly anything to the transfer portal after what would that be, 2023 or 2024, and turn around and now you're in the CWS in 2025 because you've got that cohesion. So they're trying to get old, stay old, and D1 is just I was telling somebody else this. It used to be if you were in the top 100, like let's say you were in the PBR top 100 in the state of Illinois, there was a pretty good chance, a D1 was going to sniff around you. And probably, you might end up with a D1 offer too, just depending on if you wanted it or not. Now it might be the top 50. I mean, it's almost automatic that from 50 on back, everybody's going to D2, JUCO, D3, and AIA. Just a matter of what is best for them. So,
And that's what parents really have to understand through all this.
Yeah. And we've got kids right now that whether they're JUCO sophomores or 2026 is about to start their senior year, going, well, why aren't the D1s coming? Well, I can tell you why they're not coming. Like 6,445 reasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing anytime soon. The whole NIL deal with those coming in via the House ruling and the roster limits, but not really roster limits. It's a mess, and it doesn't. This year, I think I told you guys when we started this whole thing, when you guys were 14 years old. I think I told you guys, hey, by the time they come through, it'll all be cleared out. First, it was supposed to be the class of 2023 that benefited from the clear out, and then 2024, and then 2025, and now we're just like, we're stuck in a hellscape. There's no other way out. So
yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, gentlemen, I don't want to take any more of your time, and my wife says I'm being too damn loud down here, and she can hear me through the floor, so we better let Miss Melissa get her beauty sleep.
Well, tell her happy birthday, too.
Yeah.
Happy birthday?
Or was it your anniversary?
Anniversary. On Saturday, yes, sir.
What'd you do for her? Anything?
Private fireworks show.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, Ben, just tell her I still don't like her, okay?
That's fine. I'm pretty sure she's aware. You want me to kick the dog while I'm at it, or?
Yeah, just in case he forgot to.
Yeah. Great.
All right, I love you,
gentlemen. As always,
appreciate you guys.
We'll see you, man.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right.